Hello and welcome to the third episode of 60 Minutes or Less, a new podcast from Verticate for Breakfast. I'm Andy Hughes and it's a delight to say that our guest this time around is Philip Frobos, bassist and vocalist in Omni out of Atlanta, Georgia. Omni first came to my attention in early 2017 when they performed in Manchester with much missed local lock duds, setting me on a course of mild obsession that still continues on to this day. Mainly a writing partnership between Philip and guitarist Frankie Broyles, Omni have a knack for penning cucumber-cool post-punk numbers that are super infectious. The band released their debut album, Deluxe, in 2016, swiftly following it up with second album, Multitask, a year later for Trouble in Mind. They then signed to Sub Pop in 2019 for the release of their third album, Networker. In February 2024, Omni will release Souvenir, their fourth album and second for Sub Pop. Ahead of its release, I caught up with Philip over Zoom on a Friday, morning there, afternoon here, to discuss the record, as well as Nancy and Lee, Jonathan Richman, UK venue highlights, and taking on drummer Chris Yonker full-time. Keep an ear out for distractions from his cat and my dog, both animal companions that were eager to be included. Before we get to the chat, whilst I've got you, just a quick one to ask, cap in hand, if you would do us the favour of sharing the podcast and getting in touch if you're a fan. You can get in touch if you're not a fan, but, keep it light. Anyway, on to the episode. Enjoy. It's nice, obviously, to see you, but it's virtually. Normally I like to do these things face to face because, you can catch up with people at a show and you know where they've been and what they've been up to the night before and what they're about to do with playing a gig or what have you. So coming in blind, obviously we just had a wee chat, but how do we find you today? It's first thing in the morning over there, right? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean it's like first thing in the morning if you're an artist. It's like 11, so it's but I'm on my second cup of coffee and eagerly anticipating my third. And just having it's kind of a dreary day, but I'm gonna sort through some records today and go sell some of them, donate some. So that's what I got ahead of me.
That sounds like the perfect artist come hipster type of Friday afternoon. Speaking of records, obviously
Sure.
you've got a new album on the way, Souvenir. So that's due out next month or this month, whenever this goes out. It was perfectly described as a collection of audio objects and a stash of musical miniatures, which really leans into how special a record can be, particularly with a physical release. From video to artwork to layout, how important is that aspect of a record to you? I imagine from what we've just talked about, it probably is, but is it such a all-consuming piece of art for yourself and the band?
This time around, it certainly has been all-consuming. It's been in a really good way, but it's just, I think getting back into it is a little surreal after all these years. And we've put, you may be able to tell so far from the ones that we've released, but we have 2 more videos coming, and I think we've put the most energy into our visual campaign that we ever have. And I know that we're all super proud of the way the record's being rolled out and presented. And obviously, we have the classic slam dunk album cover from Frankie. And the record itself, we're still excited, which that's a good thing. By the time you're get around for it to be coming out and time to play the shows, the songs have an energy that we're definitely running with. Sorry, my cat is being crazy. Did you hear that? Hold on one second.
Yeah, no problem.
Snaps, what are you doing? Just giving her a little more food.
I'm glad that you've had this moment as well, because my dog's behind me sleeping, but if he has a go, then I might have to put him out.
Here we go. All right. Sorry about that. More important things in life, right?
Yeah, definitely. Cats and animals don't care about release schedules and things like that. So you return with Exacto, first single, and a video of you all looking very intergalactic Beastie Boys. But the follow-up, Plastic Pyramids, was just, even though, straight away it was with Exacto, it was this is the Omni sound. That just, the second single just seemed cooler than the other side of the pillow. And one of your catchiest vocal attacks with that pump up the pyramid. And when I first heard it, my initial thoughts were, which you'll either take well or, maybe not so well, depending on your outlook. My initial thoughts were Jonathan Richman. that kind of call and response with the female vocalist. Is this something that's ever come up before, or do you take influence from anyone when you're doing the vocals?
Like, has like Modern Lovers come up before? I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah. I mean, and I've always been a big fan of his. I was lucky enough to see him one time at like a in a hotel basement here in Atlanta. But it was just like him and a guitar. But yeah, I mean he's a legend, of course. Trying to think like for that song specifically, I was kind of like I was kind of imagining a mix between like Lee and Nancy and
Oh
the
yeah.
B-52s or something like that. Kind of those worlds colliding.
It's definitely got a B-52 vibe, and I suppose like that Hazelwood, and there's definitely and I can see some growth. So if you were to get that tash going a little bit by the time the UK tour comes, maybe the record itself comes off the back of Networker, which was your Sub Pop debut, obviously
That's right.
3 records in, and that was released a few months shy of the world going into lockdown. You were inactive for most of the pandemic, rather, outside of releasing your own solo record and novel. Was
Hmm.
this conscious in terms of that time away, or was this just a case of it was impacted by all the uncertainty of what was going on in the outside world?
Yeah, I think I mean it was certainly impacted in one way or another, but I think the fact that we just stopped dead in our tracks for two-ish years. I mean, really like two and a half probably years, and then like did nothing, and then started taking a step forward. That makes a big difference. And then also just we just had a lot of pent up energy that we were just like we're not interested in like going down some artistic rabbit hole. Like we're here to rock, that kind of thing,
So
without sounding cheesy or whatever.
I mean, so there's no Lindsey Buckingham style book yourself into a studio for 100 days and all that sort of stuff.
No. It was very I mean, I we did have more revisions with this record than we've probably had previously. We really pushed the songs to be their best form. Some of them had pretty significant changes. Like, have you heard the full record?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Um, yeah, like Verdict, that song it was originally like more mid-tempo, kind of
Okay.
groovy, and then it turned into whatever it is now. And Plastic Pyramid also was like transformed quite a bit.
I actually picked up on Verdict. I was going to say I've always liked you guys lyrically, like the way you put things out there, and I love the bits about powdered donuts, black coffee, and the morning paper. So when we previously got together for an interview around the second album, and you previously said that lyrics kind of came out of a fever dream almost, and that you sometimes surprised yourself. Is that something that still kind of comes about? And do you think that translates musically too? Like, does Frankie ever just get in the zone, and Chris and yourself?
Yeah, I think that's definitely still a big part of it. It's just like whatever your impulse is to put somewhere, like, we do take time away from the art to think about it, but usually when we're like executing something, it is spontaneous. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. There's some spontaneity, and I like that song, kind of it's kind of fun to like not worry so much about making everything like make total sense, and just letting it all come out. Yeah, that one was really exciting, and I was happy that everyone was on board with letting me go down that go down that lyrical journey.
I'm assuming so, because obviously for a while it's been just yourself and Frankie, hasn't it, from the
Yeah.
producing the record side of things. So I assume
Hmm.
that's kind of the case, that you're all just happy to, if someone's going for it, to just let them go for it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I mean, obviously, like musically with guitars and overdubs, like Frankie's always like doing that too. Like this record, he had amazing overdubs, which you can hear throughout, and they do just the right amount. Like I don't think it doesn't seem like, oh God, they were just overproduce themselves or whatever. It's like, oh, that's meant to be there, or something, something like that.
Is he still? So I know when we previously talked, you were hitting tour to tour, and Trouble
Hmm.
in Mind were like chasing you up for when's the next record coming out and such.
Hmm.
And then obviously he's got the artwork on top of that. So is he still like just completely hitting it 100% with time wise, or like you say, are you still giving yourself a chance to take a break?
I think, I mean, he's been pretty busy for sure with art, but I think we've kind of built in more time for us to recuperate from things because we're simply just not as young as we used to be. Still young, but not don't quite have that 20 something energy.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
So with Networker, it said that it was a record that was written half between tours and half during, recording sessions. With the
Hmm.
first single, you said, lyrics and melodies were written in the back of a van in Sacramento, which sounds a tiny bit daunting, but I assume it was involved in a tour.
Yeah,
But how?
I was wondering if anyone was going to ask me about that statement. Hold me accountable.
Yeah, it seems kind of, yeah, a wee bit, I don't know, like a mystery novel or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But how did the rest of the record come together? Was it more of a case of, because you were still obviously playing shows in 2022, so was it kind of a case of you were still doing stuff on the road, or?
Yeah, actually, we didn't do any riding on the road. In that case, we were on like a family trip. I think it was just like, we were starting to kind of feel the deadline ish and just wanting to keep the ball rolling. So I was out and or my wife and I were out in Sacramento visiting her family, and our brother and sister-in-law have like one of those travel around in nature van kind of situations. So I was just like, "Can I borrow the van keys? Like, I just need to go. Like, I need to go work on some shit." So it was a good situation, and I always like that kind of little artistic getaway, little just putting a little bit out every day, feels good. You start to feel stifled if you're just not doing anything day after day after day. So
I think statement wise, saying that you need to borrow the van to go and sort some shit out still doesn't clear you. But
yeah.
yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, what kind of business was I really up to? Northern
Well, I mean,
California.
yeah, you've got the second novel to go anyway, so
Yeah.
we can touch upon that then. So I know that previously with Multitask, you talked about the remote cabin in the woods, again like a detective novel. It was built by Frankie's great grandparents in the 40s or something like that. Is it right that you were still using that as a base for some of the writing and such, or?
Yeah, that's right. And it was really nice. We'd go, which we didn't really do this as much before, but we would go down with nothing or little to nothing in mind and just crank out a few and come back and do it again. Got some of our best work out of that. Exacto was one that came from that, and another one that's going to be a single complement also, and the list goes on. Yeah, it was great. And then we also did our initial tracking there. So we did bass, drums, guitar. It was really just bass and drums. I'm not sure he actually did any guitar down there.
And after that time away, did it feel great to, like you said before, something like just crack on with the rock and roll? Did it feel great
Mm.
to just be able to whip one out like Exacto and say the record's starting to is going to start to take shape?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I think everyone was very excited, and our friend Chris Sampson, who recorded us, he was definitely feeding off the energy and pushing us also in that direction. And yeah, it was a was a good time.
When obviously we were talking before, Chris possibly going to join us,
Hmm.
he seems to have been the longest guy behind the kit for a good few years now.
That's right.
Um, and is officially now in the mix with the record. So,
Yeah,
what is it about? Excuse me, the dog
that's
is
okay.
moaning behind me. What is it? What is it about Chris, other than having a fantastic surname, that's kept him around for so long?
I mean, he's incredibly talented. I mean, first it was just his ability to effortlessly play Frankie's drum parts, which are not easy drum parts, and then he's obviously a very kind and wonderful person to travel with, which is that always makes a big difference. And he's an artist in multiple ways. He has his thriving tattoo business, Morning Mouth Tattoo. He even did a synth overdub on Plastic Pyramid also. So it's cool to have him aboard fully and doing the thing. He's got a really good ear for keeping things rolling. Being a duo, sometimes you run into walls, but with that third voice, it just kind of keeps one foot in front of the other, like in recording situations or stuff like that. So it's good.
But there's never a period where Chris will say something and you and Frankie will say it's a partnership, you know.
No, I mean, I think when he joined and everything, like he joined like kind of knowing what he liked about Omni and what the way Omni was like. I think it was less like a let me conquer this artistic endeavor and insert myself, and like more like how can I help this be the best it can be. And yeah, he's only been a positive addition.
And speaking of additions, it's not just Chris that makes himself known. There's also tracks this time around that feature guest vocals for the first time. Friend
Yeah.
of the band, Izzy from the LA trio Automatic. So obviously that could be seen as a big step for Records In. Was it such that that was the case for you, or was it kind of just a case of obviously you know her so well, you wanted to explore a bit with the record because there's other flourishes on the record instrumentally that are a bit different this time around?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And so we did a tour together in 2022. When we did that tour with them in 2022, we really hit it off because they're just very like-minded and cool artists. And we were talking about like the possibility of doing a song together, or collaborating in something in some way on the road. Then when we were reworking Plastic Pyramid, we were kind of running into some walls, like the end of writing and all that. And we had the idea to give Izzy a call and turn the song into a duet. And amazingly, she was like, hell yeah, I'll do it. I'll be there next week. Let's make this happen. And yeah, she flew in and we had a great time. And things went so smoothly that we were able to grab her on Verdict and F1 also, just as kind of bonus. We're like, what else, And then it ended up. I definitely love her additions to those songs also. But yeah, so it's definitely a very welcomed addition. And then the fact that she came back for the video too is very very nice.
I'm sure you'll probably agree that she just seems to fit in straight away. As I'm sure, obviously you had the great bonus of let's not just do the one song, let's just do the three. And yeah, her collaboration just works, I think, so much with the Omni sound. I'm sure the three of you would agree.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, like it was, we're pretty picky taste wise, and we felt a connection to their band and their style and them personally like almost immediately. So yeah, it was fantastic to have Izzy aboard.
And I read a piece that you did with the band on
Hmm.
playing smaller venues that feel authentic, and it's less about size and clout, it's more about the venue feel and the crowd.
Hmm.
We've seen you ourselves at a handful of intimate venues, as we were saying before, the first with Duds way back when in Manchester. Both here and abroad, what is it about venues and scenes that appeal to you so much, do you think?
Like, what do I like in a venue? Or is that what
Yeah,
you
I
mean?
mean there's always these, cool little, like, I remember when you played Yes in 2019, and the
Hmm.
whole vibe seemed to fit you guys as a band anyway, with the carpet on the stage and the pink lights and
Yeah.
stuff. And it just seems to be, I mean, obviously, I'm sure it's the same in the States, but these sorts of venues have a lot more character than your, massive stadiums and such.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I mean, it's probably it's more like how you would imagine seeing us. So it is cool to be there and embody y'all's dream of how we fit on a stage. But yeah, that Yes venue was really cool. I remember loving the vibe in there.
We spoke with Joe Casey of Protomata and discussed,
Hmm.
special British venues like the Brudenell Social Club in Leeds, and
It's a great
uh,
one.
yeah, and the Trades Club in Hebden Bridge. I don't know if you've ventured to that part of the.
I don't think we've done that one actually, but
That seems like perfect for you
mm,
guys. Do you have any
Moth
particular?
Moth Club is great in
Yeah, I mean, I
London.
was I was going to
So
say, do you have any particular favourites in the UK and abroad? And do you have,
mm.
on that token, any horror stories of that sort of stuff?
Horror stories. I don't know if we have any UK horror stories, but we played a cool gig in Coventry. I can't remember where it was, but it was like the venue was by one of the canals because there's a lot of canals there. I'd have to look back at an old poster to see what the name of it was, but it was really cool. It
It
almost
must
seemed like maybe an old theater or something, but not big.
nice and intimate. I think
Yeah.
you rarely get people say that they played somewhere nice in Coventry, but it's I'll take your word. It does sound, yeah. So when we were previously speaking around the second album, as we say, you'd all three of you, without Chris at the time, had mentioned that there were people excitedly coming up to you to tell you that they'd heard you on the radio. And it was something that you said doesn't happen much back home. Obviously, States is a much bigger place to the UK and Europe and such. Is that something that's with the sub pop aspect that's changed now, or?
A little bit. Yeah, I mean, I know that, Plastic Pyramid got added to XM like satellite radio, which is really cool. And I think we have some radio campaigns going on for sure. I haven't heard as much about it, but I know that kind of stuff also gets going more around when the album comes out over here. So yeah, we'll know more about that. But they definitely have a good radio thing going. But the thing about a radio in America is that it's just not the same as the way you guys have it, like where it's like kind of built in and something that's really special to you. I don't know, any of that infrastructure kind of got destroyed and mixed up. Aside from like college rock, like college radio is probably the closest thing to that. But even those have taken hits from different corporate interests and stuff like that. So it's weird. And our national public radio does not have music shows. I mean, there's tiny desk stuff online and all that, but there's no hour that you can tune in and hear like a rotation of new music. So it's a weird thing here, but there are some special situations. I know there's a lot of like special DJs in New York and LA, and
Hmm.
down here in Atlanta we actually have some amazing R&B and like hip hop radio, but we don't really have like we don't have rock radio aside from college.
It does. I mean, I know, like we already said, it's the States obviously a lot bigger, but it does seem crazy that there's, not a six music type over there, because obviously that is so vital to artists like yourself and
Yeah.
countless others. Finally, I was just going to say, obviously, Sub Pop are a legendary label, but they've been snapping up a choice number of bands in recent years, like outfits like Sweeping Promises and Deeper. And yourselves seem to be a band who were one of the first of our favourite crop who were picked up for Networker. Is it still really cool to have their stamp of approval and say, our record is actually coming out on Sub Pop, who've been at it for however many years?
Yeah, it's certainly not lost its luster, and it was great to hear from their enthusiasm for this record has been awesome, and like Tony over there told us that it's his favorite Omni record, and said that was there's a lot of competition, so that's cool. We're stoked about it.
It's good to have your label say that your next record is their favorite, rather than say, I still preferred the first one.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that's probably more true more times than you realize,
Sure. So we've touched upon the UK and radio and such. You're obviously coming over in a month's time. What is it you're looking forward to? A month's time? You're coming over in spring,
April.
right? Spring, yeah.
Yeah.
What is it in particular that yourself and the other two are looking forward to?
Oh, I think just seeing old friends and familiar faces, and just getting back over. I guess, well, we still have to take a ferry. We are playing in Dublin. I was gonna say we're not taking the ferry over this time, but we are doing one ferry. Yeah, it'll be really nice. And just also, we haven't been to another country. I mean, we've been to Canada, but that's our neighbor. We haven't been across an ocean in 4 years, so stuff like that just really gets the blood flowing and makes you feel like a real human, excited to do it again.
Glad that in a few months' time you'll finally be able to feel like a human again.
Yeah,
it was a pleasure chatting again, Philip.
Yeah,
I hope all is well your end.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's likewise. Looking forward to seeing you. And do you happen to know where we're playing in Manchester? Is it Deaf Institute?
I thought it was Gulliver's. I think I'm wrong. I think it might be somewhere else.
It is Deaf Institute.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think we played there one time before.
Sweet, man. Cool. Well, thanks very much.
Yeah.
Hope you have a good rest of the day. I've got to go and take this dog for a walk now because he's barking his head off outside. But yeah,
enjoy it.
Yeah. Send my regards to the other two.
I sure will.
Cool.
Thanks again, Andy.